Did you expect that news today? I'm going to lie, I didn't. You've probably already seen it's been the shock that's come out. If you've not already, I mean, let's be honest, you've probably heard of this already. Leicester City again, Jamie Vardy to depart Leicester by the end of the season. I mean, first of all, before I get into my thoughts and everything, I just want to put up that so it's again, all good things comes though that comes to an end. Again, it's obviously filled at the stadium way before this, and then just to win a Vardy shirt, Leicester City could not stop putting their foot in their mouth. Hey, and I understand there's an opportune time to go and get a signing and stuff, but this one feels different because again, he was that last member of that 2016 squad that 2016 squad that won the league. And when all Brighton left, I was like, do you know what, it's time, but yeah, thank you for your service. When Iheanacho left, thank you for your service, even though he wasn't around then. I'm trying to think of some specific. Where's Morgan? It's your time to retire. And brilliant players that were like, yeah, we're coming towards the end. This one, people were talking about Vardy retiring, and I was convinced that he was going to stay on another season. I was like thinking, like, give it one more season because he's been here for 13 years. I think he had the opportunity and he realised, look, I would have loved for him to break the record and get into the top 10, but he's still got a phenomenal record on his case. Without reading too much into it, the timing for me was a bit suspicious. Why do this now? Yes, we've been relegated. Ironically, we've heard more about his future than we have about Ruud van Nistelrooy's or any of the board members. And let's be honest, out of all speaking about them, the board, Vardy and Van Nistelrooy, probably Vardy was the least likely, the one that needs sorted out the least. And they could have waited till the summer. I mean, before I sing his praise, and I think you all know how I would sing his praise, and I think the record of the man speaks for himself. And we'll get on some of the memories in particular, but just in general, the amount of people that are coming out and saying, "Oh my God, absolute legend!" People that I didn't even think followed football, people that I didn't know that followed our club as much as they did. I saw West Ham fans tweeting about it. I saw Cardiff fans and all sorts of people. I'm like, oh my God. I've tried to come off, this will be a hypocritical statement, but I've tried to come off social media. I actually found out through Doug, if you know Doug. He messaged me going, Vardy, shock face. And I went, what, has he signed a new contract? Is he got injured? At first I was, oh my God, he's got injured. When I watched that video, I was like, I didn't expect to hit me as much as it hit me. It's before we go into the same thing that everybody else has talked about in terms of a legend, what this mean, and before I sing his praises, which you know that again what he's done, and I've always believed in him to kind of get himself out of rut, to do things that other people wouldn't do. I just want to say, just obviously a massive thank you, but for me, maybe I'm being cynical. Maybe this is a sign of things to come. If Vardy is willing to uproot and leave and doesn't see his future here, bearing in mind he could have left the year that we got relegated, but the second time, I think that's a big character gone from the club. And when we talk about, and this is something that Vardy mentioned in his video, which I was just watching, going, I can't believe it. About Nigel Pearson bringing in, who I think honestly should go into the board and help with that, because he gets what football is about, and he gets what the Leicester City kind of ethos and thing was about. Whether they'd want to come back, that's a different story, especially with the shit show that we're in at the moment. For me, it's a massive deal, the fact that he's gone. But I'm glad it's on his terms. You look at the likes of Kasper Schmeichel, who was another one that when he left, it was, why is this happening now? What's going on? This is an era-defining moment, I think, for the club. Because not just that he's leaving, and I think it's nice that he's given us a heads up and going, look, since relegation is confirmed, I'm going to hand my notice in, basically, and say thank you for everything. Ben Jacobs actually tweeted out that he might be going to a Premier League club. I've got a feeling he'll either go Saudi or MLS. in my opinion. One last paycheck, why not? And what does this mean for the club going forward? I mean, it's not looking good. Reports keep coming out, and I'll be honest with you, I've just been disassociating myself with this football club and putting that way, because there is real problems. I've never heard BBC Radio Leicester talk like they've talked. I remember the year that we were going to go down, when Brendan Rodgers, we were bottom of the table, and they were mentioning about, it's not the start that Leicester City would have wanted. And I'm like, I'm literally pulling out my hair going, what do you mean it's not what you wanted? What you wanted would have been 14th. We're right at the bottom. We've got 0 points. The discussion they had, and I really recommend you listen to it. This Monday's When You're Smiling, Matt Piper makes some brilliant points, and I've always respected him as a football pundit for just saying it how it is. Talking again with his relationship with John Rudkin. And if you read, I've actually read one of the first book I read, it was Into the Darkness, and reading how John Rudkin helped him back into football, and the fact that he's willing to come out and criticize him on the BBC. This is again a platform that has been notoriously quite pro Leicester City, quite favourable, to say the least, and has always seen things in a positive light. The discussion they had with Rob Tanner, with Kate, who you'll see on again, Lest I Die, and also Blue Tinted Glasses. When you see the conversation they had, it feels really quite bleak, and it's the reason why, again, one of the reasons why I've been dissociated with it. But Vardy leaving, coming back to it, is a massive thing, partly because who's going to replace him? Edouard's gone. Edouard's gone at the end of the season. You've got Patson Daka. We don't know what's happening with him, even though his when he put out a statement on Twitter saying thank you again. I really want to work with this club going forward. Tom Cannon's obviously left in the summer, so it really doesn't leave that many strikers. Is there somebody coming through? Yes, maybe, but it depends on who our financial strains are. What the EFL sanctions of what they put in place, because we haven't got really that many strikers. So anyway, so the timing for me was, I get it a little bit because you want to give the fans time, and the club's attendance has been dwindling because we could all see what was going to happen from miles off. Let's be honest, from months away, that the club was going to get relegated. But now it's confirmed Jamie Vardy's leaving. I think this could be a tactic to get people back into the ground and go, look, it's off. Yes, I get it. The football's crap. But at the same time, I'm not going to see Vardy again. And that's a big pull. I think people that know Leicester, Vardy arguably is a bigger name than Leicester City. And I know that some fans are like a bit confused. But speaking to international fans, when I've had them on the interview, etc., and I've spoke to fans when I've been around the world, sometimes they've recognised Jamie Vardy before they've recognised Leicester City. And I remember when I was I was travelling, and I met this guy in, it was a bit of a shameless plug. It was in Hawaii of all places, but I met a guy from Sporting, what's it called? Sporting Lisbon, now Sporting Portugal. Who was a massive fan of Ricardo. And he was like, "Oh, you're getting such a good player. I can't believe what kind of player." This was 2018. And I was like, "Oh, it seems like a good player. Our recruitment's been good at that time." 2018, how things have capitulated. Anyway, since that happened, and he was like, "No, the team with Jamie Vardy," and he was obsessed, and he was just talking about, "Oh, I can't believe the story is amazing," and etc. etc. And then obviously they won the league, but he was so much invested in that. And yes, anecdotes aren't related general, but I think sometimes you take yourself out of the picture and realize how much of a fan people have got into the sport and got into the supporting Leicester City because of Jamie Vardy. I remember I met some South Koreans at the beginning. Two came over, really lovely lads, and they were gutted the fact that they came over. Obviously, they saw Son for playing for Tottenham, but they got to see. They were gutted that Jamie Vardy wasn't going to start. And then the announcement came out, and they were both, "Oh, we're going to see Jamie Vardy." And I think he's a big pull to this football club. The fact that he's retiring from an economic point of view, and the fact that he is kind of an ambassador to the club, people will come to see the football because of him. I've had players. I've had games where I think we played Derby a few years back. And I took some friends who don't support football just for the pre-season game, and they were gutted because they played two games at once, one up in Preston, one up in Derby. They were gutted that Jamie Vardy weren't there. So even if they don't know about football and who the current players are, if you're from the outside, you'd know who Jamie Vardy is. There's a certain level of thing with the current team where I call it the mum test. If a mum who knows who they are famous. Or if they can't go to Leicester City Town because they'll get swarmed, that is again pretty much a legend and a person that's bigger than the club. Number one was Mahrez, probably one of those when he was here. And I said the second one is Jamie Vardy. Even Kasper Schmeichel, as great as he was, wasn't known on that same level. Wes Morgan, as brilliant as he was, wouldn't be recognised by his face in a public. Like he could go through town and kind of get away with being that. I actually saw, again, shameless plug, Leonardo Ulloa. Is it me just bragging this time? I was with a friend of mine and I went, I was like Leonardo Ulloa, parked up on the side near Firebug and then walked into town just in his car. And like, yeah, that's absolutely fine. But Jamie Vardy, from the economic point of view, is a big miss to the club. And I think, especially with the FFP issues and sanction issues, it's going to be a big thing. I mean, I probably I'm not doing it justice how much it is, but I think this is the era defining moment for Leicester City, and we may be looking back talking about. And I was speaking to Mark Mandelfield related to this, and he was mentioning about he's the player that we'll talk about with years to come, and I think he's bang on. And I remember going to the ground, I think I've said to you saw before, where people would talk about Martin O'Neill, they talk about Steve Walsh, they talk about Muzzy Izzet, they talk about Neil Lennon. And I remember talk about that era in that team and going how that was an incredible team at the time. And they would talk about, oh yeah, and I remember thinking, shut up with your stories. You're living in the past. I'm living in now. Craig Levine's managing Leicester City. It's awful. I'm going to be, but I'm be honest, I'm going to be a hypocrite. I'm going to do exactly the same. I had the pleasure enough to see him live, not just the wind-ups, not just the goals, and the fact that he was seen from the outside, apart from Leicester fans, as the player that would score all sorts of goals, headers, run in behind, good with his feet, would assist a credible amount as well. Obviously, his shit stirring and his winding up the audience every time they would chant, Jamie Vardy, your wife is a grass. And the Leicester fans would go on then. And go, you don't know what you've just done. Didn't always score, especially towards the end of his career. But for me, it's been an incredible journey for him. And I'm really quite worried where the club goes from here. Because he epitomizes Leicester over the last few years. Not sorry, over the last 10 years or so. Because bearing in mind, next year will be the 10th year anniversary since we won the league. Yet we'll be in the Championship. Mental, huh? And thoroughly deserved. We don't deserve to stay in the Premier League. So, yeah, let me know your thoughts. I know I'm probably going to do another video on Jamie Vardy. I know I've kind of talked around the bushes and houses and all the specific memories that I have, because I think this deserves a much better video. But I just thought I'd get my ramble out there as per usual. But for me, this is I looked on social media and I'm like, I can't believe it. I genuinely can't believe it. And this feels like a real statement. And we'll remember this the year that Jamie Vardy left. As ironically, I think we'll remember that more than the relegation. We'll remember that more than certain players downing tools, far more than Ruud van Nistelrooy being the worst manager in Leicester City history. I think we'll remember it as the year that Jamie Vardy left. And it's gone from relegation. I thought it couldn't get worse. It's got worse with Vardy leaving. I just wasn't. I don't think anybody was expecting it. And that's shocking. That's shocking, but I understand why. And he needs to. He's given us so many opportunities. He had every right to leave and become the top play. Leave when we when we relegated. He had no right to give us an extra year with how successful a striker he was. Still is. And it's gutting. It's absolutely gutting. But the club moves on to where? To when, to how, to who's going to be in place, we don't know. But it's a sign of the times. Hopefully the times are moving in the right direction, because the way the club is going, this is a big one. It's almost like, for those of you that like Harry Potter, it's a bit like when Dumbledore died. Do you know what I mean? It's like that. It's like that kind of defining moment in the history and where it's going, and it kind of feels like a death in the family. So yeah, I think what a record he has, and if we can build a statue, if there is going to be somebody apart from Vichai that is going to epitomize Leicester City, it's going to be Jamie Vardy, no? So yeah, let me know your thoughts. How did you find out the information? What's your feelings? Leave them in the comments down below. And the rest of it will just be the Vardy testimonial. And I'm really hoping he starts to, even towards the last game of the season, if he brings on the likes of Andy King and all of the 2016 to like parade to say this was our year, this was us, and this is the final goodbye. Get Riyad Mahrez back over to England, etc., and then have like a walk around the pitch. I think that would be a beautiful send off. But what a legend. Best player in our history by quite some distance in terms of what he's done over the number of years, and thoroughly deserved his career. And there won't be another one like him. Let's see what happens. The game's changed, and Jamie Vardy's been one of the most constant throughout. And people forget how I still think that people sleep on how good he is. Like for years, he was up there with the likes of Harry Kane and Sergio Aguero, in terms of the number of goals scored, etc. And he just kept grinding, kept performing, kept assisting. I'll probably do another video on some of my favorite memories on him, because I think he deserves an whole video in itself. If you enjoyed the video, like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll see you all in the next video. So goodbye.